My parents gave my brother so much attention that they even neglected me on my wedding day. That was my final straw. Growing up, I always knew Lucas was the favorite, but I thought things would be different on my wedding day. I'm Sarah, and I spent months planning every detail of my September wedding to my fiancé Mike. My parents promised they'd help with everything, but the week before the ceremony, the familiar pattern started again. Mom canceled our final dress fitting because Lucas needed her to drive him somewhere urgent. Dad missed the rehearsal dinner because Lucas had called with some kind of emergency. When I asked what was wrong, they just said Lucas was going through a difficult time and needed extra support right now. This had been happening my entire life. Every birthday, graduation, achievement, something with Lucas would pull my parents' attention away. He was 2 years younger, but somehow always needed rescuing from situations I never fully understood. The strange thing was, Lucas never seemed to have a regular job, but he always had money for expensive clothes and gadgets. He'd disappear for weeks at a time, then show up at family dinners acting like nothing happened. My parents would get these urgent phone calls at all hours, and they'd drop everything to go help him with something they'd never explain. During college, I started noticing patterns. Lucas would show up at family events with different groups of people, usually older guys who seemed nervous around my parents. He drove cars that were way too expensive for someone without steady work. When I asked him about his job, he'd give vague answers about consulting or freelance work. My parents always made excuses for him. They said he was creative and needed time to find his path, but they'd also have hushed conversations that would stop the moment I entered the room. I'd catch fragments about lawyers and appointments and deadlines, but never enough to understand what was actually going on. The wedding morning started with my mom showing up 2 hours late to help me get ready. She was distracted, constantly checking her phone, barely paying attention as my bridesmaids helped with my hair and makeup. When I asked where she'd been, she said Lucas had needed her help with some paperwork. Then my dad called during the photos to say he might be a few minutes late to walk me down the aisle. Lucas had called with another situation that needed immediate attention. I stood there in my wedding dress, watching my photographer's confused expression, trying not to cry and ruin my makeup. 20 minutes before the ceremony, my dad finally arrived, looking stressed and exhausted. He hugged me and apologized, but I could tell his mind was somewhere else. During our walk down the aisle, he kept glancing at his phone, which was buzzing in his jacket pocket. The final straw came during my wedding reception. I was giving my maid of honor speech when I saw my parents quietly slip out the back door. They didn't say goodbye, didn't tell anyone they were leaving, just vanished during the most important moment of my daughter's wedding. Mike found me crying in the bridal suite an hour later. I called my mom's phone and it went straight to voicemail. Dad's did the same thing. My own parents had abandoned my wedding reception without explanation. The next morning, I drove to their house demanding answers. I was done with the excuses and the mysterious emergencies and the constant prioritizing of Lucas over everything else in their lives. I needed to know what was so important about my brother that they'd missed their own daughter's wedding. That's when I found them in the kitchen with Lucas, surrounded by legal documents and what looked like court paperwork, and I finally discovered what they'd been hiding about my brother for the past 5 years. I stand frozen in the doorway, my wedding dress from yesterday still hanging in the car, my body numb as I take in the scene before me. Legal documents are spread across my parents' kitchen table, court filings, police reports, and what looks like financial statements. Lucas sits between them, his eyes red-rimmed but defiant. My mother's face crumples when she sees me, and my father can't even meet my gaze. What is all this? My voice sounds strange even to my own ears. What was so important that you had to leave my wedding? Lucas shifts uncomfortably, but there's something in his posture that doesn't suggest remorse, just annoyance at being caught. My father finally looks up, his face aged a decade overnight. "Sarah, please sit down," he says, gesturing to the empty chair across from them. "We need to talk." No, I remain standing, gripping the doorframe. "I've spent my entire life watching you drop everything for him. You missed my maid of honor speech. You left my wedding without even saying goodbye. I deserve answers right now." My mother reaches for a tissue. "Lucas is in trouble, Sarah. Serious trouble. When is he not?" The bitterness in my voice surprises even me. Lucas glares at me. "You don't know anything about my life. Because you've all been lying to me." I step forward, snatching one of the documents from the table. It's a legal brief with Lucas's name and case number at the top. As I scan it, phrases jump out at me. Money laundering, drug trafficking, conspiracy to distribute. My hands start shaking. "How long has this been going on?" I whisper, looking up at my parents. My father's shoulders slump. 5 years. The timeline clicks into place, the unexplained absences, the mysterious money, the hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. 5 years of deception while I planned holidays, celebrated milestones, and finally, my wedding. "We've been paying his legal fees," my mother admits, her voice barely audible. "Every penny of our savings. The emergencies," I say slowly. "The urgent calls. It was all this?" My father nods. "Court dates, meetings with lawyers, bail hearings." I turn to Lucas. "So while I was planning my wedding, you were what?" He doesn't deny it, just shrugs with that same arrogance I've seen 1,000 times before. It's not as simple as you're making it sound. Lucas is facing 25 years. My mother interjects, her voice breaking. The prosecution wants us to testify against him. And you're considering not doing it? I can't believe what I'm hearing. After everything he's put you through? He's our son, my father says, as if that explains everything. And what am I? The question hangs in the air between us. Yesterday was my wedding day, the day I've dreamed about since I was a little girl. And you couldn't even stay for the reception because you were dealing with this? Lucas rolls his eyes. It was an emergency, Sarah. The DA called with a plea deal. We had until midnight to… Stop. I hold up my hand. Just stop. Do you even hear yourself? You've been doing this for 5 years. 5 years! And you couldn't give me one day? My wedding day? My mother starts crying in earnest now. We're sorry, Sarah. We truly are. But if we don't help Lucas, he could go to prison for most of his life. Maybe he should, I say coldly. Maybe that's exactly where he belongs. The room goes silent. Lucas's face darkens with anger, but I don't care anymore. How much? I ask. How much money have you given him over the years? My parents exchange glances. My father clears his throat. All of it. Our retirement savings, the college fund we had left. We even took out a second mortgage on the house. I feel sick. And the fancy cars? The expensive clothes? Where did that money come from, Lucas? He doesn't answer, but he doesn't have to. The court documents tell the story clearly enough. You knew, I say to my parents. You knew what he was doing, and you protected him anyway. We thought we could help him get out of it, my father says weakly. We thought if we just got him the right lawyer, paid off the right debts. I laugh, a hollow sound that echoes in the kitchen. And now they want you to testify against him, and you're actually considering not doing it? After he's dragged you into his criminal world and bled you dry? They're my parents, Lucas snaps. Of course they're going to protect me. And what about me? I ask, my voice rising. Who protected me while you were all lying to my face? Who was there for me when you missed my dress fitting? My rehearsal dinner? When you left my wedding reception without a word? My mother reaches for my hand, but I pull away. Mike, I answer my own question. Mike was there. The man you barely know because you've been so busy with Lucas's emergencies that you never bothered to spend time with him. The man who held me last night while I cried, because my own parents abandoned me on my wedding day. Sarah, please, my mother begs. Try to understand. We were trying to protect you from all this. No, I say, stepping back. You were protecting Lucas. You've always protected Lucas, even when he didn't deserve it. I look at the three of them, my criminal brother and my enabling parents, and something inside me finally breaks free. The lifetime of making excuses for them, of understanding, of forgiving. It's over. I'm done, I say quietly. I can't do this anymore. What does that mean? My father asks, fear creeping into his voice. It means I'm walking away from all of you. I place the court document back on the table. You have a choice to make. You can continue protecting Lucas while he drags you down with him, or you can do the right thing and testify. But I won't be here to watch either way. You can't just abandon your family, Lucas says, suddenly looking worried. Why not? You all abandoned me yesterday. I turn toward the door, then pause. For what it's worth, I hope you make the right choice. But I won't hold my breath. As I walk out, I hear my mother calling my name, my father begging me to come back and talk. But for the first time in my life, I don't turn around. I get in my car, still wearing yesterday's clothes, my wedding dress hanging in the back, and I drive away from the house I grew up in, away from the family that never put me first. I'm going home to Mike, to the only person who's shown me what real love and support look like, the only person who's never made me feel second best. I drive back to our apartment in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turn white. The wedding dress hanging in the back seat catches my eye in the rearview mirror, a cruel reminder of what should have been the happiest weekend of my life. When I walk through our door, Mike is sitting on the couch, his face lined with worry. He jumps up immediately and pulls me into his arms. Sarah, he breathes into my hair. What happened? Are you okay? I collapse against him, the weight of everything I've learned finally crushing me. Between sobs, I tell him everything, the money laundering, the drug trafficking, the years of deception, how my parents drained their savings, their retirement, everything to protect Lucas, while he destroyed their lives. They took out a second mortgage, I say, my voice hollow. They've been paying his legal fees for 5 years. 5 years, Mike. Our entire relationship, when we were dating, when we got engaged, when we were planning our wedding, it was all happening right under my nose. Mike guides me to the couch and holds me while I cry. When I finally quiet down, he brings me a glass of water and sits beside me, his expression thoughtful. I think you need to understand exactly what you're dealing with, he says carefully. If Lucas has been involved in money laundering and drug trafficking for years, there's probably a lot more to this story than what your parents told you. I look up at him, wiping tears from my face. What do you mean? I mean that people like Lucas, people who commit these kinds of crimes, they don't usually limit themselves to one area of destruction. They tend to drag everything down with them. What are you suggesting? Mike takes my hand. I think we should look deeper. I have a friend who works as a paralegal at the courthouse. She might be able to help us access public records about Lucas's case. Part of me wants to walk away completely, to shut the door on my family and never look back. But another part, the part that still remembers building sandcastles with Lucas at the beach when we were kids, the part that remembers my parents teaching me to ride a bike, needs to understand how things went so wrong. Okay, I say finally. Let's do it. 3 days later, Mike and I are sitting at our kitchen table, surrounded by court documents and property records. What we've found makes me feel physically ill. He used their house as collateral, I whisper, staring at a legal document with my parents' signatures. They put up their home to bail him out 2 years ago. Mike points to another paper. And look at this, they sold their retirement property in Colorado last year, the cabin they were planning to move to after retirement. The cabin. The place my dad had talked about for years, where he and Mom were going to spend their golden years, where they'd planned to host family Christmases and summer vacations with future grandchildren. Gone. He took everything from them, I say, my voice breaking. And they just let him. Mike reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. I think you need to talk to him. Lucas? No way. I can't even look at him right now. Sarah, you need answers, real answers, not whatever sanitized version your parents gave you. If you're going to make decisions about your relationship with your family going forward, you need the whole truth. I know he's right, but the thought of facing Lucas makes my stomach churn. Still, I've spent too many years avoiding hard conversations, making excuses, pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The county jail is cold and sterile. I sit at a small table in the visitation room, my heart pounding as I wait. When Lucas walks in wearing an orange jumpsuit, he looks smaller somehow, less intimidating than he did in our parents' kitchen. I didn't think you'd come, he says as he sits across from me. I almost didn't. He studies my face. Mom and Dad told me you're not speaking to them. I found out about the cabin, I say, ignoring his comment. And the second mortgage. I saw the documents, Lucas. I know what you've done to them. He shrugs. And that familiar arrogance returns to his expression. They're adults. They made their choices. Because you manipulated them. You've been bleeding them dry for years while I thought everything was normal. Do you have any idea what you've done? They have nothing left, Lucas. Nothing. They have the house. For now. Until the bank forecloses because they can't make the payments on the second mortgage you forced them to take out. Lucas leans back in his chair. Look, I didn't force them to do anything. They offered to help. Because you're their son and they love you. And you took advantage of that love to drag them into your mess. I lean forward, lowering my voice. What were you thinking? Drug trafficking? Money laundering? How did you even get involved in something like that? For a moment, I see something flicker across his face, maybe regret, maybe just annoyance at being questioned. It started small, just moving some cash for a friend. The money was good, and it got better. Before I knew it, I was in too deep to get out. And you never thought about what would happen to Mom and Dad if you got caught? He looks away. Well, you did. And now they have to decide whether to testify against you or watch you go to prison for 25 years. They won't testify, Lucas says with certainty. They never have before. His words hit me like a physical blow. Before? This isn't the first time? Lucas realizes his mistake immediately. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. This has happened before, hasn't it? They've covered for you before. He doesn't answer, but his silence tells me everything I need to know. You're not even sorry, I say, studying his face. After everything you've put us through, you don't feel any remorse at all. Lucas leans forward. You don't understand what it's like in here, Sarah. I'm facing serious time. I could lose decades of my life. And whose fault is that? You made these choices, Lucas. Not Mom and Dad. Not me. You. He slams his hand on the table, making me jump. I need them to help me. I need them to refuse to testify. A guard steps closer, watching us carefully. I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Even if it means they lose everything, even if it means they go down with you. They're my parents, he says, as if that explains everything. I stand up, suddenly exhausted by the conversation, by the years of Lucas coming first, by the endless cycle of destruction he creates. I hope they make the right choice, I say quietly, for their sake, not yours. As I turn to leave, Lucas calls after me. Sarah, wait, I need you to talk to them. Tell them they can't testify. They'll listen to you. I look back at him one last time, this brother I grew up with, this stranger who has torn our family apart. No, Lucas. For once in my life, I'm not cleaning up your mess. I walk out of the jail with my head high, finally seeing the truth with complete clarity. This isn't just about my wedding day anymore. It's about a lifetime of choices that have led us here, my parents' choices to enable Lucas, Lucas's choices to take advantage, and my choice, for far too long, to stay silent. But I'm not staying silent anymore. The trial date looms over all of us like a guillotine blade. 2 weeks away. 14 days until my parents have to decide whether to protect their son or tell the truth. I've been staying with Mike since my confrontation with Lucas at the jail, trying to rebuild some semblance of normalcy. We've gone back to work, unpacked wedding gifts in the evenings, and sent out thank you cards to everyone except my parents. The empty cards with their names sit in a drawer I can't bring myself to open. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Please call us, Sarah. We need to talk about the hearing next week. I show Mike the message. They want me to convince them not to testify. What are you going to do? He asks, his hand warm on my shoulder. I don't know. The truth is, despite everything, I still love them. I hate what they've done, the choices they've made, but they're still my parents. I think I need to hear what they have to say. Mike nods. I'll be right here if you need me. I call my mother, and she answers on the first ring. Sarah. Thank God. We've been so worried. I'm fine, I say, my voice cooler than I intended. What about the hearing? The prosecutor wants us to testify at a preliminary hearing next week. If we do, her voice breaks. If we do, Lucas could face the full 25 years. And if you don't, they might offer him a reduced sentence, maybe 15 years with possibility of parole. I close my eyes. What are you going to do? We don't know. My father's voice comes on the line. They must be on speaker. We wanted to talk to you first. Why? You've never considered my opinion about Lucas before. The silence that follows is painful. Finally, my mother speaks. We know we've hurt you, Sarah. We know we've made mistakes. This isn't about me, I say. This is about doing the right thing. He's our son, my father says, his voice breaking. And I'm your daughter. But that didn't stop you from missing my wedding reception. Another silence. Then my mother asks, will you come over tomorrow, please? We need to talk about this in person. I agree, though something in my gut warns me not to go. When I hang up, Mike looks worried. I don't like this, he says. They're trying to pull you back into their cycle. I know, but I need to look them in the eye when they make this choice. The next day, I drive to my parents' house alone, despite Mike's offer to come with me. When I arrive, I'm surprised to see a familiar car in the driveway. Lucas's attorney, Mr. Daniels. My stomach drops. Inside, they're all sitting in the living room. My parents, Mr. Daniels, and a woman I don't recognize. My mother jumps up when I enter. Sarah, thank you for coming. This is Mr. Daniels, Lucas's attorney, and Miss Reynolds from the defense team. I don't shake their hands. What is this? You said we needed to talk as a family. We do, my father says. Please, sit down. I remain standing. Why are they here? Mr. Daniels clears his throat. We wanted to discuss the impact of your parents' potential testimony on Lucas's case. You mean you want to pressure them not to testify? Sarah, my mother says, her voice pleading, just listen. For the next 30 minutes, I listen as they outline a strategy where my parents would claim ignorance of Lucas's activities. They would testify that they had no knowledge of where his money came from, that they never suspected anything illegal. It's all carefully crafted to give Lucas the best chance at a reduced sentence. This is insane, I finally interrupt. You're asking them to lie under oath. We're asking them to focus on what they can't be certain they knew. Miss Reynolds corrects. They knew, I say firmly. They've been bailing him out for 5 years. My father looks down at his hands. Sarah, please. No. I want to know why I'm here. What do you want from me? My mother reaches for my hand. We need you to understand why we have to help him. Even if it means committing perjury, even if it means risking everything you have left. He's facing 25 years, my father says, as if I don't already know this. Because of his choices, not yours, not mine, his. Mr. Daniels interrupts. Actually, Miss Thompson, there's something else we wanted to discuss with you. He slides a folder across the coffee table. Inside are photographs, me at work, at the grocery store, entering our apartment building with Mike. What is this? I ask, my blood running cold. Lucas has connections, Miss Reynolds says carefully. People who are invested in his situation, being resolved favorably. Are you threatening me? Of course not, Mr. Daniels says smoothly. We're simply illustrating that there are many parties with interest in this case. I look at my parents, whose faces are ashen. Did you know about this? Did you know they were following me? No, my mother whispers. Sarah, we would never. We just found out today, my father adds quickly. We had no idea. I stand up, gathering the photos. I'm taking these, and if anything happens to me or Mike, the police will know exactly where to look. As I turn to leave, my mother grabs my arm. Sarah, wait, there's more you don't know. What more could there possibly be? She looks at my father, who nods slowly. Lucas, he's done things to hurt you before, things we protected you from. My heart pounds. What are you talking about? My father takes a deep breath. Remember your car accident senior year? The brakes failing on your way home from school? I feel dizzy. That was an accident, the mechanic said. The mechanic said what Lucas paid him to say. My father finishes. We found out later, Lucas needed money for a debt. He thought if you had a minor accident, the insurance payout would help. Minor? I was in the hospital for 3 days. He didn't mean for you to get hurt that badly, my mother says, as if that makes it better. He just needed the money. And you covered for him? My voice rises. You knew he tampered with my brakes and you said nothing? We thought it was a one-time mistake, my father says weakly. We made him promise never to do anything like that again. But he did, didn't he? The realization hits me like a physical blow. What else? What else has he done? My parents exchange glances. Your apartment break-in last year, my mother admits. It wasn't random. Lucas needed something to pawn. I remember coming home to find our place ransacked, electronics gone, my grandmother's jewelry missing. Mike and I had felt violated for months, jumping at every sound in the night. And the wedding, I whisper, the final piece falling into place. He deliberately created an emergency to make you miss it, didn't he? My father can't meet my eyes, he threatened Mike. Said he'd have someone hurt him if we didn't come immediately. So, you just left? Without telling me? Without calling the police? We were trying to protect you both, my mother insists. By leaving me alone on my wedding day? By letting my criminal brother manipulate and threaten us? I'm shouting now, years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. He could have killed me with that car accident. He violated our home. He ruined my wedding. And you protected him every single time. Mr. Daniels stands. I think we should continue this another. Sit down. I snap. This isn't about you. Surprisingly, he does. I turn back to my parents. You have a choice to make, right now. Either you testify truthfully about what Lucas has done, all of it, including tampering with my brakes and threatening my husband, or I will never speak to any of you again. Sarah, my mother sobs, please don't make us choose. I'm not making you choose. Lucas did that when he decided to become a criminal, when he decided to endanger me, when he decided to threaten Mike. I take a deep breath. I deserve parents who protect me from people who try to hurt me, not parents who protect the person hurting me. We love you, Sarah, my father says, tears streaming down his face. We love you so much. Then prove it. For once in your lives, choose me. I walk out, leaving them with their choice. As I drive away, I feel lighter somehow, as if speaking the truth has freed something inside me. Whether they testify or not, I've finally stood up for myself. I've finally demanded what I deserve. Mike is waiting on our couch when I get home. He takes one look at my face and opens his arms. I collapse against him, telling him everything, the photos, the threats, the shocking revelations about Lucas's past actions. He could have killed you, Mike whispers, holding me tighter. That car accident could have been so much worse. I know. What are you going to do if they choose not to testify? I pull back to look at him. I meant what I said. If they choose Lucas again, after everything he's done, I'm done with all of them. Mike nods, his eyes serious. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. We're a family now. You and me. We'll get through this together. I lean my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I love you. I love you too. Now we wait. The preliminary hearing is in 3 days. 3 days until I find out if my parents will finally choose me, or if Lucas will win again, as he always has. I wake to the sound of my phone ringing at 3:17 a.m. Mike stirs beside me, his arm tightening around my waist as I fumble for the device on my nightstand. Hello? My voice is thick with sleep. Sarah? My father's voice sounds strange, strained, and urgent. It's Lucas. There's a pause, a shaky breath. He sent someone to threaten us, at our house. Just now. I sit, bolt upright, fully awake. Are you okay? Is Mom okay? We're fine, but Sarah, his voice breaks. He had pictures of you, of your apartment building. He said if we testified. My blood runs cold. Mike is sitting up now too, his hand on my back, concern etched across his face. Dad, you need to call the police. Right now. We already did. They're here taking our statement. There's muffled conversation in the background. Then my mother's voice comes on the line. Sarah, we've made our decision. Her voice is steadier than I expected. We're going to testify. All of it. Everything Lucas has done, the money laundering, the threats, what he did to your car, all of it. Relief floods through me so intensely I nearly drop the phone. Mom, we should have done this years ago, she says, her voice breaking. We should have protected you. We're so sorry, Sarah. After I hang up, I explain everything to Mike, who holds me as I cry not from sadness this time, but from a complicated mixture of relief and vindication and grief for what could have been. The preliminary hearing is a blur of legal terminology and formal procedures. I sit in the gallery with Mike beside me, watching my parents take the stand one after another. They look older somehow, shoulders hunched under the weight of their testimony, but their voices remain clear and unwavering as they detail Lucas's crimes. When my mother describes how Lucas tampered with my brakes, there's an audible murmur through the courtroom. When my father explains how Lucas threatened Mike before our wedding, I feel Mike's hand tighten around mine. And when they both confirm their knowledge of Lucas's drug trafficking and money laundering activities, Lucas's face darkens with rage. He turns in his seat to glare at me, his expression so venomous that the bailiff steps closer to him. I don't look away. For the first time in my life, I hold my brother's gaze without flinching, without making excuses for him in my head. The judge orders Lucas to be held without bail until the trial. As they lead him away, he shouts over his shoulder, "You'll regret this, all of you." Outside the courthouse, my parents approach hesitantly, uncertainty in their eyes. Can we talk? My father asks. We find a quiet coffee shop a block away. For several minutes, nobody speaks. My mother stares into her untouched coffee while my father fidgets with a napkin. "We don't expect you to forgive us," my mother finally says, "but we want you to know that we understand now. What we did, what we allowed to happen, it was wrong." "It wasn't just wrong," I say quietly. "It was devastating. You chose him over me my entire life, even when he was hurting me." My father nods, tears in his eyes. "We thought we were protecting the family by keeping his secrets. We thought if we just loved him enough, supported him enough, he'd change. But all we did was enable him," my mother adds, "and hurt you in the process." "What happens now?" I ask. "The house? Your finances." They exchange glances. "We're selling the house," my father says. "It's too big for us anyway, and we need to pay off the second mortgage. We found a small apartment we can afford on what's left of our savings. We're also seeing a therapist," my mother adds, "to understand how we got here, why we couldn't see what Lucas was doing to all of us." I feel Mike's hand on my back, a silent reminder that I'm not alone in this, that whatever I decide is okay. "I need time," I tell them honestly. "I can't just go back to normal after everything that's happened." "We understand," my father says, and for once, I believe he actually does. Lucas's trial comes 3 months later. The evidence against him is overwhelming: financial records, witness testimony, even recordings from his associates who turned state's evidence to save themselves. My parents' testimony is just one piece of a much larger case. When the verdict comes back, guilty on all counts, my mother weeps quietly beside me in the courtroom. My father stares straight ahead, his face unreadable. I feel strangely hollow, as if the vindication I expected hasn't quite materialized. The sentencing hearing is scheduled for the following week. We all return to the courtroom to hear the judge deliver Lucas's fate: 15 years with possibility of parole after 10, plus restitution to his victims. As they lead Lucas away, he looks back at us one last time. There's no remorse in his eyes, just cold calculation. I wonder if he's already planning his next move, his next manipulation. But for the first time, I realize his schemes no longer have power over me or my parents. Outside, rain falls in a gentle mist as we stand under the courthouse awning. 15 years, my father says quietly. He'll be 42 when he gets out, if he serves the full sentence, I remind him. My mother touches my arm hesitantly. "Will you come to dinner next week, just to talk?" 6 months ago, I might have refused, but something has shifted between us since they finally chose to tell the truth. "I'll think about it," I say, which isn't a no. Over the next year, we rebuild not the same relationship we had before, but something new, something with clearer boundaries and more honest communication. My parents sell their house and move into a modest 2-bedroom apartment. They attend therapy weekly, both together and separately. My father finds a job at a local hardware store, and my mother starts volunteering at a domestic violence shelter, using their family's story to help others recognize the signs of manipulation and control. I help them sort through decades of possessions, deciding what to keep and what to let go. In Lucas's old room, we find boxes of items he'd stolen over the years: jewelry that belonged to my grandmother, watches that were gifts to my father, even some of my childhood mementos I thought I'd lost during moves. "He took everything from all of us," my mother says as we sort through the boxes. "But we're taking it back," I tell her, and she smiles, a small, sad smile, but genuine. Mike and I invite them over for dinner once a month. The conversations are sometimes awkward, sometimes painful, but increasingly real. They get to know Mike properly for the first time, learning about his work, his family, his dreams for our future. On our first anniversary, we decide to renew our vows, a small, intimate ceremony in our apartment with just my parents and Mike's family present. My father walks me down our makeshift aisle without checking his phone once. My mother gives a toast that makes everyone cry, acknowledging the pain of the past year and expressing hope for the future. "To Sarah and Mike," she says, raising her glass, her hand trembling slightly, "who taught us what real love looks like: love that builds up instead of tearing down, love that tells the truth even when it's hard." Later that night, after everyone has gone home, I tell Mike my news. "I'm pregnant," I whisper, and his face lights up with joy. As he holds me, I make a silent promise to our unborn child: "You will never know what it feels like to be second best. You will never have to fight for your parents' attention or protection. The cycle ends with me." 2 weeks later, we tell my parents over Sunday brunch. My mother cries and hugs me carefully, as if I might break. My father sits in stunned silence before asking, "Would it be okay if I helped with the nursery? I could build some shelves, maybe a rocking chair." "I'd like that," I tell him, and I mean it. As we drive home, Mike asks, "Are you okay with your parents being involved with the baby?" I consider the question carefully. I think so. They're not the same people they were a year ago, and our child deserves grandparents who love them. I place my hand on my still flat stomach, but we'll be watchful. No favorites, no enabling, no secrets. We'll break the pattern. Mike covers my hand with his. We already have. That night, I dream of a family dinner, Years from now, my parents, older but healthier, Mike and I surrounded by children who feel secure in our love, all of us talking and laughing without the shadow of Lucas hanging over us. It's just a dream, but for the first time, it feels possible. The road ahead won't be easy. My parents still have moments where they slip into old patterns. I still have days when anger and resentment bubble up unexpectedly. But we're moving forward, step by step, building something new from the wreckage of what came before. And that, I'm learning, is what healing looks like.